is so important. What I want to talk about today, share with you. I've been talking to so many incredible sisters from around the world, and there is a one through line, there is one theme that's running through for everyone. Um, it seems that for sure we are stepping up and up leveling collectively. Almost all the sisters are experiencing some version of practically the same thing, which has to do with really letting go and trusting that what they want is possible. And a lot of the women that I'm speaking to are really, they've done a lot of work and they are brilliant, beautiful lights, and they have a beautiful, profound connection with spirit, and they're desiring to be of greater service and more visible, and trusting that these desires can actually sustain them, like sustain them financially and spiritually, and really serve their communities. And so the longing that I really keep hearing is this longing to be in a full state of permission, like all of it, really permission to be in our full self expression, maybe the self with the capital S, and maybe even beyond what we have known ourselves to be and what's possible for us. And I'm so passionate about this. Actually, everything that I do is about permission. And what I know from my own experience and what I know from talking to hundreds of women at this point, is that what keeps us from permission to be in our full self expression and allowing ourselves to be seen is shame. And it's almost unbelievable, because I think we all have so much shame. It's just part of the programming. It's passed down from the generations, and I am still working through this. And this is, what's so amazing for those of us that are in the service and healing work, is that, we're met with clients who are just like just on the tail end of where we've been. And so we get to really guide and do this growth work together. But I would have never thought that I would be dealing with deeper levels of shame at this point. Um, Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I would have never thought that I would still be arriving at shame that I didn't even know was there. And so uh, recently, what I have noticed is, as I have been becoming more visible, that there was a part of me, that a subconscious part, that didn't want to be visible. And that part was really rooted in a desire to be seen in perfection, that I would, my desire to want to be seen in perfection. And then underneath all of that was this shame that I'm actually still in process with, of just bringing light to and awareness to. And I will share more about it as it's a little more integrated. But recognizing that this shame, it wasn't even mine. It was cultural, and picking it up and recognizing where I picked it up from in the household that I grew up in, and specifically around sexuality, which has been my journey. But we all have our shame in different places. And this shame keeps us bound. And so, how do you find out where your shame is? If you say, I've done a lot of work and I don't have any shame, well, I bet there is. If there's another level of expression that you're yearning for, that's not, uh, that doesn't seem available, or, just like right there, then there is some shame. So, what I want to invite you to do is to actually look at, what behavior or thoughts would you not want anyone to know about? So, I know those who struggle with weight issues, it might be that when it's 11 p.m. and you're eating like 6 donuts or 12 donuts, um, that is a moment that you wouldn't want anyone to see. That is your darkest moment of like unworthiness and landing and like just numbing the pain. Or if it's an addiction of some sort, if it's addiction, like, there's to food, but there's addiction to drugs, substances, pornography, Even addiction to, just really beating ourselves up. I think so many people have so much shame around their mental uh, patterns of thinking about themselves and the judgment they have against the world. So really look at, what is it? This, I mean, if you want to heal the shame and if you want to move through the permission, don't just listen to me say this, but really sit down and look at, where is a place that I really wouldn't want to be found out? And don't get so hooked into it, like just look at it and find it. And once you find it, then see if you can land in some safety inside of yourself, of knowing that you're loved and that you've already moved through. You're already in this adult person, so you're not a little child. But we're going to go back and then take yourself back through your childhood and just track and see if you can find, where did this behavior originate? Where does the shame of it come from? Like, maybe, where did I pick up the pattern? Did I pick it up from one of my parents, one of my siblings, from a teacher, or someone in an authority position? Or did I just pick up the behavior because when I did the behavior, there was so much shame around it that it got connected to that shame and it started looping? And it's like this dark, and it is, I mean, I do talk so much about the shadow work as well, and it's all connected, but there's just different angles at getting at this, because the truth is, most of the places that we have our shame locked into are connected to, it's like a twisted way of how we would be receiving pleasure. So, like sex addiction, drug addiction, which is like establishing connection, food addiction, which is pleasure and nourishment, but then it's twisted. So I want you to really just, you know, give yourself a minute to connect to that, and then see if you can come into a lot of compassion for the source. So where did you pick this up from? Did you pick the shame up from your parents? Wherever you pick that up, can you come into compassion for them? Can you recognize the humanity? Can you recognize the humanity of your mother who shamed you for wanting to eat 3 candy bars instead of one? Can you just find compassion for her and compassion for yourself? And then make a choice. And this might be a process. Maybe save this video and come back to it a couple of weeks or 3-4 weeks. And so it can definitely be a process, but when you come into that compassion, see if you can also then land in a place where your desire for your freedom and your permission to fully be self-expressed is bigger than anything else, than any desire to please, than any desire to hold your mother's pain or your father's pain, or be bound to the church who shamed you in your sexuality or your desire or whatever. So you get to the compassion, and then once you have compassion for this human who helped create this lesson for you that has been the cause of suffering, but now you get to liberate yourself, then bring yourself to that place where you are more committed to your liberation than anything else. And from that place, see if you can be willing to disrupt that pattern by cutting the energetic cord. So really, here's the connection, and then am I willing? So here's my mother, here's my father, here's my priest, whatever. I really appreciate everything you've given me, all the beautiful things in this painful lesson. Am I willing to do a pattern interrupt and completely change the story? So come into, in essence, a new dynamic with that person, even if it was yourself, even if it was your younger self. See if you can create a pattern and interrupt. And that would really, what will that do is give you your power back. It will give you your power, because you can't be bound to that shame and fully experience your power and freedom to be fully self-expressed. It just doesn't work like that, because it's this loop of pain. And we carry each other's pain, because this is human life. It's like, if you want a human life without pain, it doesn't exist. But we do have choice of how we move through it and how much of our power we take back. And so for me, my journey has been absolutely the taboo around sexuality, the taboo around sexual expression. It's that for me, it has been about cutting that completely. You know, last night I was sitting under the stars and I'm actually bleeding right now. And I was sitting under the stars and I took my blood and I painted my face with it and I gave it to the earth and I drank it, and I drank it to nourish any part of me that might be bound to some shame from the home that I grew up in, from the people that I was living with, that doesn't belong to me. And so I really drank it to give myself the strength to cut that cord. And I share this because there was a time, you know, when we're little girls, like when we come into our cycles, a lot of times like we're even embarrassed to go to the checkout line and buy our feminine products. And so it's like these little places where these taboos are, there's infinite power and freedom to be gained from that place. And I really hope this has been helpful to you. I'm just kind of trying to distill the whole thing into all of us being able to arrive at deeper spaces of permission. And that also requires letting go of control, letting go of the control, needing to be perceived a certain way, needing to be perceived in perfection, even by ourselves, because we haven't looked at the shame, because we haven't looked at the shameful behavior or habitual thinking. And so we're not even willing to look at ourselves. And so this surrender is required to really let go into maybe I don't know. I don't know who I am. Maybe I don't know what I'm really made of, but maybe there's room for all of it. Maybe I can come into acceptance of all of myself and then step into sharing myself and then be met and received.